Let's see which countdown timer I should use here. Let's try this one. Let's put this.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is September 25th, 2023. Binda, tell us what you know about something, anything.
Tell you what I know about. It's still hot in Texas. It's supposed to be cooler today.
We had a fire rolling this weekend, man, with a little dribble jabble of rain. We
had some rain last night. That was welcomed. Nice change.
Yeah.
But yeah, you started some fires and burned some shit, right?
I did, both inside the house and outside the house.
Wait, what?
Yeah. No, we lit the fireplace this weekend, or the wood stove to keep it toasty, if you will.
It is about that time there, isn't it? Starting to cool off.
It really is, man. It's like overnight dipping into the 40s. It's like, yeah. Either that or pay $8.7 trillion for heating oil. I'm not sure which one is.
Just let you get all that. You got all that damn firewood. Just
a lot of wood, baby. A lot of wood this year. A lot of wood. All right, man. So here we go. Another week, another adventure. That we're pretty much coming into the day, but relatively speaking, within range of where we were Friday. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little lower. So, but yeah, we're right there.
Dollar looking. If you look at the dollar in the 1 hour, it's like it's got a decision to make. Either if it's going to correct this ugly ass rising wedge thingy that it's in, or if it's just going to go ahead and moonshot and take everything out to the upside. Apple having I just put this in quotation marks, a decent morning this morning, even though it can be inverse of pretty much everything that happens. Not a lot of activity this morning as far as dark pools and that kind of stuff. We have one into Amazon at 129.12, Qualcomm with one, Mondelez. Really lackluster. The one thing that we do have is volume. 1.2 million pre-market shares on SPY, which is higher than it's been over the last several sessions as far as this time of morning, as far as where the volume is. So somebody's doing something with something over there. As far as the narrative goes, it remains the same. We had Goolsby on this morning saying higher for longer, that the market isn't properly accounting for rates being in that position. I think it was, I don't know, it was Chase or somebody else came out this morning saying that they expect rates to be cut by Q1 2024. Again, dueling talking points, dueling headlines. You can do what you want with either of them, but when you get conflicting commentary, that means really the consensus has no idea what's going on. And I think in a lot of ways, our price action has been that way. Apple's still hovering above its highs, has not made a lower low, as it's right in this little 175 area. If indeed, Bender, this is, we're going to get the baseball bat till infinity, which some moments in time feel that way, others not so much. I don't see how Apple stays above 170 during that process. I said it last week, I'll say it again. It's like Apple is going to be a very, very big piece of the overall puzzle. Kind of setting up the week as far as what it is and what it may be. Let's look at some of the data points for this week. It's like today, obviously, we had a little baby data point come out, didn't do anything for anyone. We do have some ECB folks talking in about 5 minutes, which could be a big deal. And we have Kashkari later on in the day. So that's for today. We get CPI out of Japan this evening, and we get building permits in the morning. As far as some of the other stuff, we do get the standard new home sales, the consumer confidence, that kind of stuff. The big data point, I believe, is going to be we get a big line coming out on Wednesday with durable good orders. We also get crude inventories on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, I believe, are the bigger days as far as data. We get CPI coming out of Germany. We get GDP and initial jobless claims coming out of the United States of America. Friday could be interesting because we have China on vacation. They're on holiday. We get GDP out of Great Britain. And I believe we get Friday. Yeah, we get core PCE on Friday. So that's going to be a fairly important data point that comes out as far as, are we trending in the right direction? What are we doing? So we get to wait till Friday for that, with a sprinkling of Fed speakers off and on throughout the week. Now, with all this being said, nothing has changed. Oil continues to try to tick higher. Dollar try to tick higher. At one point, it looked like gold was going to be able to catch a bid and make a move higher. I'm questioning that now with the overall strength in the dollar. It looked as if we were going to try to put together a decent little bottom, but that failed. We put in a lower low this morning, and now we come into looking at everything saying, okay, are we going to get continuation from last week, or are we going to try to base here until we get additional data in order to push us one way or the other? We have been in a risk off market, I would say, for the last 2 to 3 weeks. Whether or not we observed it, saw it coming, or what, the reality is, look at the chart, that's what it is. Risk has not been going on. They have not been, buying Nikola calls the last couple of days. They're not buying plug calls the last couple of days. It's actually kind of the opposite. So coming into days like today to start off a week, with a, let's call it a fresh slate, you tell us, Bender, what you got on them charts?
Well, yeah, let's take a look. Make this trend line here a little bit easier to see. We're talking about this lower trend line down here late last week. This daily volume imbalance in here on the ES that we're trading down into, or fair value gap, sorry, volume imbalance just a little bit lower there. You'll see I have that marked out on some of the other charts as we kind of dig into this, but this down move right here, we talked about the 1272 extension being down in this 4325 area with that volume imbalance sitting just below. And then you've got that trend line coming in down here, kind of between that 1272 and the 1414. And inside of, we have a weekly, that volume imbalance you can see on the weekly as well, right in here. So that trend line falls within that weekly volume imbalance. So just the area of interest, if we do continue a little bit lower, I have that on my radar as well as the 200 on the daily. Now, if we look at the daily on the Dow and QES side by side, what we kind of see here, what I see, is that this low from July 10th, we're kind of talking about this was the low that where the Dow had already broken that previous low, right? This low took that out, and then we ran higher. But the same time frame, you can see where the where my cursor lines up on the NQ and on the ES was quite a bit higher. They weren't totally in sync, right? So what stands out to me is that double bottom on the NQ on the daily, which goes back to June 8th. You can kind of see that right in there. Around that 14, let that real quick, 14,618.75. That's where the NQ failed to make a lower low right there. But the Dow had taken that out. This previous, June 27th low, kind of right in there. Anyway, Dow was not getting the same sort of, move higher in this area. Like NQ had already made a leg up. But we've got this area in here that, to me, if I'm looking at where the stops are, right, we're right there as far as this daily candle's low on the 18th, August 18th. And if that gives and does not recapture pretty quickly, well, the next major level is down here, 14,617.25. So that's about 200 or so points down, if that's what it wants to take out. Now, the other thing that catches my eye is that looking at that wick low right here from the 18th, if you see where the cursor lines up on the other charts, on the ES, it has already been taken. And on the Dow, it has been taken. So again, when we look for that setup, where we look for two of the indices to make a lower low, and one of them doesn't, and then we look for the market structure shift. Does that happen here? I don't know, maybe, but I'll be watching to see if the NQ can hold this level in here. If not, then fine. We'll look to see what happens down here at 14,622. As you can see, under that 14,622, we have that big daily fair value gap right here, right? Which is kind of where we're at on the ES, not date-wise, but we're into that daily fair value gap before this push up occurred, right? It came in a little bit later on the ES, putting in that sort of breakaway fair value gap on the daily. It came in a couple days later on the ES versus the NQ. And same on the Dow, right? So again, when I'm looking at this, it's like, okay, the ES has already taken out all this stuff and is trading down into that fair value gap on the daily. And if it wants to continue lower, we could be down here looking at 42.05.25. I am like I said, very interested in this area right around 43.25 down to 43.05 in this volume imbalance to kind of see what happens. But just the bigger picture being that ES has already done the work to come down into this volume imbalance. NQ has not. And Dow is, you can see right here testing this low. So, you imagine looking at this, that, okay, here's where the stops are sitting. Once it takes those stops into that daily fair value gap, what does it do from there? Was that the goal? Or does it want to come down here, 33,248? But I wouldn't be surprised to see it trade down into this and then find some support in there. Sorry, Hells, what were you going to say?
No, it's like that. I like the idea as far as that area down there to see what the reaction is. I do. I like it a lot. And again, I didn't mention it this morning, but it's like the whole government shutdown noise element is starting to scream louder and louder, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. So, again, looking at them on the daily, I think seeing what happens, like the Dow's about to break, give this up and trade down into this. Let's see, what kind of price action they give us on the open. And again, watching NQ to see if it gives this up 14,792.75. So, see if it takes that or if it continues to hold, and whether or not, now that the ES is trading down into this daily fair value gap. Again, we got that volume imbalance just a little bit lower, 43.2275. If it comes down, if it breaks 4,300 and doesn't reclaim it pretty quickly, let's even say we can go a little bit higher than that. I would say if it gets below, it's going to be tricky right in here in this like 43.15 to say 43.30 area, because anywhere in here, I could see it, finding some support. But if we're making, if we're making these same kind of candles that we're making, let's go to a 60-minute real quick. So we can zoom in even a little bit further, I think 15-minute. If we're putting in these kinds of 15-minute candles as we approach the bottom of that daily fair value gap, then don't try to get in front of it, right? Kind of like last week, when we get to these areas where it's like, okay, maybe in here, maybe this is what it's after. I'll be looking at 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, looking for signs of that market structure shift. If we're going to get that, I will wait for that kind of confirmation. Not going to try to guess where they might decide the bottom is at. Kind of wait for that confirmation to occur. But I think if we get below about 43.15 or so, and we're putting in those kinds of candles, you're probably looking, down here in the 42.70s. And then if it wants to continue this week, maybe we go take out this 42.0525. Zooming in real quick, and then I'm done. We'll go to 15-minute. You can see that you got the Asia session in here. London session high, London session low took out the Asia session, which sets us up for potential seek and destroy. If that is going to be the case, and we start to bounce, you can see buy side being right here off this little swing high, 43.62 half. Now we can see another area right in here, 43.5275. That will become a potential target with we got a 15-minute fair value gap right up in here. So if it does bounce and come into there, that would be kind of head on a swivel area. If you manage to find a market structure shift and you're playing a bounce up into this, that's where you got to be on your toes. At least for now, that level may come down depending on what we do the next, 20 22 minutes. But that would be kind of the area that I'd be looking out for if you did catch a bounce. That's about all I got. I will, at the very end, I will let you guys know if there's anything on the clock. I haven't pulled that up yet this morning. So with that, toss it over to Sun.
What you got there, Sonny?
Morning, everyone. Slow news cycle. So we'll start with, so this was interesting. I thought they were talking about TSM had placed a large order of advanced equipment for because they got rush orders from NVIDIA, AMD, and Amazon. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about how they're guiding down, like the production is going to be down 10% going into the next quarter. So this was interesting. So ASML is one of the guys that manufactures this equipment. We did see some flow into that last week. Everybody probably already knows by now the writer strike is over, and Disney, Netflix, all of those got a little pop. But the strike with the actors is still, the resolution of the strike is still pending. So we can see some spikes if that one resolves soon. Amazon is investing about $4 billion in Anthropic. It's a generative AI company. They're taking the same thing as Microsoft did with OpenAI. So Amazon's going to be a minority owner stake in Anthropic. Joby, we had talked about this last week or so. Joby and ACHR, they'd make these e-taxis, EVTOL, they call. So they've delivered their first one to Edwards Air Force Base ahead of schedule. We could see some movement into this one. This one moves, has a nice short interest also, I think, and whenever it gets flow, it moves up nicely. Meta has a conference, the Meta Connect conference, starting on Wednesday. I'll definitely keep an eye on the flow for that. On the upgrade downgrade side, AstraZeneca, STZ, Crowd, DKNG. So DKNG price target's been raised to 44, and the other ones are KMX and Microsoft, all got upgrades. On the downgrade side, Foot Locker, Nike. So Nike, they're playing some funny games with it. Couple of headlines went, hey, the student loans payments are gonna go up, so Nike product people won't be buying Nikes. They have to save their money, blah blah blah. The other one is from the Chinese side saying, hey, some of this, because of the higher interest shipping and all of that stuff, the prices are going to go up, so it's not, people are not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah, that was even funny. This is Sonny. This is anecdotal, but I think it's kind of worth mentioning. So my brother, it's like his student loans are coming due after this big deal, $690 a month that he has to account for that he didn't have to before.
Yeah. And they're using that headline quite a bit, especially on the retail side. People aren't going to be able to do this, but either way, it's gonna happen, right? Whether people can afford it or not. So I don't understand the purpose of these headlines. They keep saying, hey, student loans are coming into play. It may have some effect, but people are habitual. They're gonna spend money on what they're gonna spend money on. So the other one was Micron. So Morgan Stanley is underweight, but there is a price target. So a lot of fuckery around. On the dark pool side, we have a large dark pool into Amazon, about 15% at 129.12. Meta, 8% at 299.08. Let's see what other big ones. Qualcomm, almost 13%, and Adobe, 11%. Adobe is 512.90 and Qualcomm 323.04. I did some changes to the dark pool template that I posted. It's posted in my room. Did some enhancements to it, and I'll post the layout right now in the room, and that's all I have. Stonky?
All right, that's me. Let's go. Let's do some sharing and we'll talk about some charts. Here we go. All right. So we can start as usual in Smash Burger Land. Interesting one. Spy vs. Q's last week. So uh, the setup for into Friday was a smash burger because we closed below the prior day's low, so it would have been a failed breakout setup to the upside, which it broke, and then it broke the low, so or at least closed right around there. It looked like Larry Williams potentially would have stopped out on a Q's long if he was trying to go long on Friday, whereas the SPY didn't break, and so the SPY I still have an alert here for the break of this high going into this day. This is kind of my inner bull, hoping, waiting, seeing what we might get. But so SPY, this setup to the upside is still intact, whereas Larry potentially would have stopped out on the Qs for a long setup on Friday. Since Bender jumped around and took a look at the NASDAQ, we're looking at similar stuff. I'm going to just switch right over to the Russell here. So Russell below, I had this level that we've already lost. We could see that this one was important with candle bodies respecting it. So the next level below I'll be watching here on Russell is going to be this 1776.6. If we give that up, then we might be looking down to take out these stops, another 30 down potentially. For the upside, I've got this last week's candle, a big range candle, creating a fair value gap, which is going to be this orange box here. And then we've got this weekly volume imbalance that we've now had the candle close over it. And we'll see if that comes into play just because there was a lot of range there. Based on that, I'm somewhat bracing, anticipating for some range bound price action. So we'll see what we get. We also have this 4-hour fair value gap here above, which would give room up through 1797.1. So we'll see, if we lose this, then we can be looking again for this area below down here, some of these relative equal lows, potentially take out those stops down there. Let's see. So other than that, to put out an idea here, potentially bullish on the XLV, maybe somewhat more defensive. We've got this falling wedge here. And then let's see, I've got fibs on this one. Let's see. So yeah, here we go. Fibs from this low to this high, we just crossed the 786 retracement. So we'll see if bulls want to step in. The other thing I found when I was going back through this was this dark pool. There's a lot of dark pool down there, down at 127.77. So if we start pushing, continuing to the downside, I've got some alerts. If we break 129 flat to the downside, then I'll be looking potentially for this 127.77 area. I also found some call sweepers out to January on that one, so we'll see what we get. And then the last chart that I wanted to look at was Apple. Apple had its second weekly inside bar. And the interesting thing to note is that the low is going to be this massive dark pool 173.57 here on Apple. So if we were to cross below that, things could get ugly. So I'll be looking for break below 173.57 to the upside. I'm going to be watching for 174.93. That's also a lot of money sitting there on that dark pool. The other thing, if we look, we kind of had a left shoulder head, right shoulder, and then we've got a mini one here, left shoulder head, right shoulder. So all going to be coming down to that 173.57. I'll be looking for that. And that's all I've got for today.
Awesome.
All right. Very nice. So Maine is missing mods for the week. So I'll be helping out over there. Everything else remains the same. You guys have a good time down here. I'll be watching chat, that kind of stuff. Bender's been working on some things, so we'll still be able to communicate as normal.
I hope.
I think the thing. Look, it's a work in progress. We have to make sure that we're giving the proper support to the team when and where it's needed. So, but this is only 1 week, and in relation to a long time, if you will. So just keep that in mind. That's all I got. We got about 11 minutes until open. they're going to do what they're going to do. We just have to be sharp to make sure that we are playing in the direction that they want to play in. I think the one thing that's apparent so far this morning, they keep on tickling lower lows. You tickle a lower low and you get some reflex candles. Again, volume is better than what it's been pre-market in relation to the last several sessions. So obviously there are players within the mix. So everybody have
do we need to have a quick like, or maybe we'll just put a list together for you of things that you should not say while you're up there?
I debated this a little bit over the weekend, and in order for me to be effective, I have to be me. So no, I will not be on filter. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll see
All
you
right.
guys soon.
Well, see you in a few.
Yeah.